and I'm going to continue with dilutive securities here. Talking about how we allocate monies that are issued when the securities are combined in bond and warrant, and how much is allocated to each. So this is called hybrid securities, and with hybrid, generally what's going on here, I'm going to go over a question here. On December 1, Lester Company issued a 103 400 of its 9% $1,000 bonds, and attached to each bond was one detachable stock warrant entitling the holder to purchase 10 shares of Lester common stock. And on December 1, 2012, the market value of these bonds without the warrants was 95, and the market value of each stock purchase warrant was 50. The amount of the proceeds from the issuance that should be accounted for as initial carrying value of the bond payable should be. So the idea is that we're issuing something that includes, it's kind of like a pie. It includes both bond and both warrant. And we're trying to see what is sort of the allocation to each, because one is really fixed income and the other is equity, right? So the first thing I want to do is see what was the issuance amount, right? So it's kind of like 103 times 400, and keep in mind each bond is worth 1,000. So 1.03 times, essentially it's 400,000, because we have 400 pieces of 1,000 that we're dealing with. So the issuance amount is going to be 412 straight up. Now we want to see how we allocate between the bond and the warrant. So they're telling us the market value of the bonds without the stock warrant was 0.95. So the market value of this chunk, 400 pieces of $1,000 bonds, the market value was 0.95. So we're saying this was actually worth 380 without the warrant. And it sounds like the stock warrant was worth 50 a piece. And now, how many of these did we have? So there was one per bond. And how many pieces we had? 400. So it sounds like we had 400 pieces, 400 warrants, and each warrant was worth $50. So 400 times 50 is going to be equal to 20,000, right? So we have 380 and then we have 20. So the total market value looks like is 400. But the question is, what's the percentage? So 380 over 400 is 95%. So 95% will go on the bond, and 5%, 20 over 400, will go to the warrant. But now I have to go back and see that this 412 bifurcates into two pieces. The bond is 95% and the warrant is 5. Because this is what we actually got. When we issued them together, the whole pie was worth 412, the entire pie. But now we're saying, well, 90, like that bond piece of the pie is 95% and the warrant piece of the pie is 5%. So when we take 95% of 412, we get 391 400. So just to summarize, the way to answer this question is first to figure out what did they pay for the entire security. This is just 103 times 400. And then you figure out, well, they tell you the actual value, the market value of each security. So you're saying, well, the bonds are really worth 380 and the warrants are really worth 20. And you're saying, well, it looks like if I had to compare, this piece is worth 95% and this piece is worth 5%. And then you apply these percentages to the actual issuance amount, and then you get the answer is B.